Hello there, you're watching Nightline. I'm Anita Wu. The top stories. No fund from 1MDB deposited into pastor's account, says MACC chief. And DOJ claims Joe Low transferred money to MO1 through intermediary. Our headlining story. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commissioner, MACC, on Sunday confirmed that PAS did not receive 90 million ringgit from One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB. Its Chief Commissioner, Datuk Seri Muhammad Shukri Abdullah, said investigations carried out since February 6th did not find any transaction showing the money was deposited into PAS's bank account as alleged.
Berdasarkan SPM setakat ini ada memang tak mendapati bahawa berlakunya kemasukan 90 juta yang dikatakan daripada ONDB ke dalam akaun PAS.
He, however, declined to elaborate further on the investigation, saying it is being handled by the MACC's Investigation Division. Earlier this month, the MACC opened an investigation into an allegation that UMNO paid 90 million ringgit to PAS leaders to secure their backing. Subsequently, several PAS's former and present leaders were summoned to give the statement over the matter. They include former PAS Deputy President Datuk Nasharuddin Mat Isa, former Vice President Datuk Hussam Musa, and Central Committee member Nik Abdul Nik Aziz. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad on Sunday called on youth in the country to join the Malaysian Civil Defence Force, or APM, as part of their voluntary service for the nation. He said although the agency has been around since 1952, not many from the younger generation have shown interest to join it.
Saya juga berharap agar pihak media akan dapat membantu usaha untuk memperluas peranan dan fungsi APM kepada rakyat. Masyarakat perlu sedar di dalam banyak keadaan bencana, sama ada kebakaran, kemalangan maupun apabila seseorang individu itu pingsan. APM adalah barisan paling hadapan sebelum agensi-agensi kerajaan sampai untuk membantu.
He said this when officiating Langkawi's Civil Defence Complex in Langkawi, Kedah on Sunday. Tun Dr. Mahathir said with just the right amount of exposure, the APM can entice the younger generation. He added that the APM is also a multiracial agency that reflects the goodwill it represents. Therefore, the government will continue to support it through fund allocations and relevant equipment. At a separate function, Tun Dr. Mahathir said the takeover of highway concessions would be done according to the government's capability. He said talked with Gamuda Berhad to take over the 4 highway concessions in the Klang Valley, with the first step taken by the government to fulfill its general election manifesto.
Sekarang ini kita dah jadi kerjaan, kita dapat maklumat sepenuhnya berkenaan dengan kos yang amat tinggi. Kalau kita tidak kenakan tol, kita masih perlu maintain semua tol-tol ini, dan kita juga perlu membesar tol ini, memanjangkannya, mengadakan tol yang jalan tol yang baru. Kalau kita tak kutip tol langsung, maka kita tak mampu bangun banyak tol road, dan pihak swasta tak akan bangun tol road kerana mereka tidak akan dapat pendapatan apa-apa.
The Prime Minister said this at a media conference after launching the national-level Kampungku Sehat programme at the Langkawi Parliamentary Constituency Service Centre on Sunday. Since taking over the government, Tun Dr. Mahathir said the Pakatan Harapan, PH, had been thinking about how to fulfil their promises. He said the government is focusing on what it can do, namely the highways in Kuala Lumpur, but will be expanding to other tolls nationwide. Tun Dr. Mahathir also revealed that the talks were being handled by Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng. For Economic Affairs Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin Ali, the plans to abolish tolls have already been in place since Pakatan Harapan took power in the May 9th, 2018 polls. He also stressed that the proposal had nothing to do with the Semenyih by-election.
Yang kita mahu Apa yang kita janjikan dalam manifesto mesti kita tunaikan. Itu komitmen yang kita berikan. Cuma masa itu perlu ditentukan berdasarkan kajian dan kesan kepada keuangan negara.
The US Department of Justice, DOJ, is claiming that Low Tech Joe, or Joe Low, transferred money to Malaysian Official 1, or MO1, through an intermediary. MO1 is the DOJ's reference to former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Mohamed Najib Tun Razak. The DOJ said the transfer worth $10 million or 40.7 million ringgit was secretly transferred under the guise of real estate projects in the two Muslim holy lands of Mecca and Medina. According to a report, the alleged fund transfer was part of $20 million allegedly diverted to MO1 under the Good Star phase of the 1MDB scam. The details were first highlighted by the DOJ in June 2017. According to the DOJ, Good Star, which was a firm controlled by Low, had received $700 million in 2009, and another $330 million was again diverted from 1MDB in 2011. A total of $24.5 million from Good Star was subsequently transferred to a Riyadh bank account in the name of individuals dubbed Saudi Associate 1 and Saudi Associate 2. The $20 million to MO1 was said to have been split into two $10 million transactions. They were said to have been transferred within days after the transfer to the Saudis in February and June 2011. According to the DOJ, Joe Low stated that the purpose of the wire transfer in June 2011 was to invest in real estate developments in Mecca and Medina, pursuant to an investment management agreement with Saudi Associate 1. The account used by MO1 to receive the $20 million fund is apparently the same account used to receive $681 million allegedly diverted from 1MDB in 2013. Previously, Datuk Seri Najib had claimed that the $681 million or 2.6 billion ringgit, was a donation from the Saudi royal family. He also revealed what he claimed to be proof in the form of a donation letter in September last year. However, according to the DOJ, the amount was transferred from Tanora Finance Corporation under false pretenses. Tanora was a company whose account with Falcon Bank was controlled by Low's associate, Eric Tan Kim Long. The Finance Ministry on Sunday announced a 100 ringgit higher education student aid or BPPT aid for this year to be given to each Malaysian student at higher learning institutions or IPTs nationwide. The MOF in a statement said the move by the government is in response to a suggestion by the Education Ministry. The aid, it said, will be disbursed at the end of next month using existing mechanisms, namely the Bank Rakyat debit card. It is expected to benefit some 1.2 million students, involving a total allocation of 120 million ringgit. The statement further read that details on the implementation of the 2019 BPPT and its student eligibility criteria would be announced by the Education Ministry soon. The disbursement of the BPPT is in tandem with the government's announcement on February 20th to provide cost of living aid, or BSH, of 100 ringgit to Malaysian singles. It is expected to benefit more than 3 million individuals and involve an allocation of 300 million ringgit. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said Malaysia's economy is going strong and the gross domestic product, or GDP, is expected to expand a further 4.9% in 2019, albeit a decline in inflationary pressure. He also said that the January 2019 Consumer Price Index, or CPI, decline was not caused by recession of any kind or weak demand. In a statement, Lim stated the CPI decline proves that the government policy of abolishing the Goods and Services Tax, or GST, and stabilising fuel prices with a ceiling price mechanism have benefited both businesses and the people. He also stressed that the January price decline was not due to weakening of demand or economic growth, but was largely caused by supply factors in the form of cheaper input cost, particularly cheaper fuel prices. Lim noted that the RON 95 petrol was 13% cheaper in January compared with a year ago and has positively affected the prices of goods and services. He also said the price decline should improve Malaysians' purchasing power and add to the economic growth. The Health Ministry will table a proposal and policy to make immunisation vaccination compulsory. Health Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad said he would bring the matter to the Ministry's post-Cabinet meeting. Should it receive support, it will then be brought to the Cabinet. Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli in a statement said he expected arguments supporting or against the proposal and the ministry will consider all views seriously. Meanwhile, Deputy Health Minister Dr. Lee Boon Chye said vaccination for toddlers 9 months old and above is currently only at 89%. The ministry is targeting a vaccination rate of 95% for effective controlled vaccine-preventable diseases such as diphtheria and neonatal tetanus.
Malangnya masih ada segelintir ibu bapa yang terpengaruh dengan gerakan anti-vaksin ini kerana mereka tidak faham bahawa sebenarnya vaksin-vaksin yang digunakan di Malaysia adalah selamat dan vaksin-vaksin yang digunakan juga terbukti keberkesanan melalui tes-tes dan scientific study.
The Health Ministry on Saturday reported that a 2-year-old boy who died this week in Johor Bahru is believed to have had diphtheria. The toddler had not been immunised since birth. Meanwhile, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Datuk Sri Mujahid Yusof, has urged the anti-vaccine group to stop debating the importance and the halal status of vaccines for children. He said vaccines produced in the country are not against the law of Islam and are medically approved, and there should be no issue.
We have referred to the Jabatan Mufti Wilayah yang telah pun mengeluarkan fatwa di peringkat kebangsaan bahawa vaksin yang kita buat di Malaysia ini bukan vaksin yang haram. Ia adalah yang telah diluluskan.
Datuk Sri Mujahid said those who create the debate should stop doing so as it will affect the effort to build resilience in children. He was speaking to reporters after officiating the Chinese New Year celebration hosted by Malaysian Muslim Chinese Association in Subang Jaya on Sunday. Meanwhile, 5 more children suspected of diphtheria infection in Johor have been quarantined at the Sultanah Aminah Hospital's paediatric isolation ward. Johor Exco member Dr. Sahruddin Jamal said one of the children is the sister of a 2-year-old toddler who died of diphtheria last Tuesday.
Pihak Jabatan Kesihatan telah melakukan pemantauan di kawasan di mana kita syaki adanya kuman diphtheria itu, di mana Jabatan Kesihatan Negeri Johor telah memeriksa 52 orang kontak yang berada di sekeliling si matilah, dan daripada 52 tu kita dapati 5 orang telah positif, semua kanak-kanak, dan kita dah masukkan ke ward.
He added that the sister did not receive any vaccination, just like her deceased brother, while the other 4 children were vaccinated previously. All 5 were living in one housing estate and went to the same nursery. 3 of the children could be discharged on Monday for not developing further symptoms of diphtheria infection. The selection of the Pakatan Harapan candidate for the Rantau state by-election would be discussed by the party's presidential council soon. PKR President Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the party is still considering the suitable candidate for the seat, which is traditionally contested by PKR.
Itu sedang kita pertimbangkan. Itu kita bincang. Belum. Kalau nak pun kita pertimbangkan.
The Rantau by-election is being held after the Federal Court on February 18th upheld an election court's ruling to nullify the result of Datuk Sri Muhammad Hassan's winning the seat unopposed in the last general election. PKR's candidate, Dr. Sriram, was not allowed into the nomination centre because he did not have a candidate pass issued by the Election Commission. Chief Justice Tan Sri Richard Malanjum, who chaired a 5-man bench, made the ruling after dismissing the appeals brought by Datuk Sri Muhammad and the Election Commission against the Election Court's ruling in 2016.
Catch the auto segment every Friday on Nightline! Woo!
Coming up next, suspect involved in Cambodia job scam remanded. Do stay tuned. Welcome back, still on Nightline. The suspect involved in a job scam that led to 47 Malaysians being detained in Cambodia recently has been remanded for 4 days. The remand order on the 35-year-old man was issued by Kuching Magistrates Court Assistant Registrar Dora Undau in Kuching, Sarawak on Sunday. According to Sarawak Commercial Criminal Investigation Department Head Superintendent Mustafa Kamal Ghani, the suspect was arrested at 3 p.m. on Saturday after he showed up to have his statement taken at the Sarawak Police Contingent Headquarters. To date, 23 people, comprising 18 men and 5 women, have come forward to lodge police reports on the case. Before this, 47 Malaysians were detained in Cambodia on charges of cheating, initiating and carrying out illegal online gambling activities after they were duped by a job agency syndicate. They were later freed and arrived home on February 17th after negotiations between the Malaysian and Cambodian government. The case is being investigated under Section 420 of the Penal Code. A teenager has died while 5 others are in critical condition. This after the MPV they were on skidded and overturned at Jalan Sungai Besi heading towards the Seremban Highway earlier on Sunday. In the 5 a.m. incident, the 16-year-old victim, Chin Sin Chi, died on the spot after she was thrown out of the vehicle on impact. All 4 survivors are also reported to be suffering from brain hemorrhage as well as injuries to the body and abdomen. Chin's remains and the 4 were sent to the University Kebangsaan Malaysia Hospital for post-mortem and treatment. In Malacca, 2 men sustained severe burns when their car went ablaze after an accident. The incident occurred at Jalan Rim, Bukit Katong, near Jasin, about 8 a.m. on Sunday. The 2 victims have been identified as D. Satis Kumaran, 27, and D. Satyamurthy, 31. Jasin Police Chief Superintendent Arshad Abu said the accident occurred when Satis Kumaran, who was driving a Proton Wira from Chabau heading towards Rim, collided head-on with a Honda Accord driven by Muhammad Haizan Kandis, 35. Initial investigations revealed that the car driven by Haizan had skidded onto the opposite lane. A Malaysian man arrested in 2017 has been sentenced to 5 years in prison for smuggling more than 6 million sticks of cigarettes into Australia. Australian Border Force said the cigarettes, which originated from Malaysia, were concealed within sophisticated cover loads and with a total alleged duty evasion of more than 4 million Australian dollars or 11.6 million ringgit. The man, whose name was not revealed in ABF's website or other reports, pleaded guilty when charged in the Melbourne County Court. Another organiser has also pleaded guilty in court and will face sentencing in April. Police arrested 12 teenagers between the ages of 16 and 23 in an operation at the Kajang Seremban Expressway for illegal motorcycle racing. At least 20 motorcycles were checked and 12 of them were found to be belonging to the teenagers. The case is investigated under Section 42, Subsection 1 of the Road Transport Act 1987. Next up, British PM promises Brexit deal vote in Parliament by March 12th. The details right after this breather. We're back with news on the foreign front. British Prime Minister Theresa May on Sunday promised to bring a vote on Brexit deal back to Parliament by March 12th. May confirmed that she would not hold the crucial vote this week as she flew to Egypt to get the approval of European Union EU leaders for her approach. She said further meetings in Brussels on securing changes to the deal ruled out a so-called meaningful vote this week. Meanwhile, a senior minister said May was making progress on winning Brexit concessions from the EU. As the UK's labyrinthine Brexit crisis goes down to the line, the Prime Minister is making a last-ditch effort to get changes to the divorce package before lawmakers try to grab control of Brexit as early as Wednesday. A record number of Afghan civilians were killed last year due to stepped-up aerial attacks by US-led forces and more suicide bombings. According to the report from the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, or UNAMA, the conflict in Afghanistan claimed 3,804 civilian lives that included 927 children, both all-time highs, leading to an 11% spike in civilian deaths versus 2017.
All parties need to take immediate and additional concrete steps to stop a further escalation in the number of civilians harmed and lives, livelihoods, and communities destroyed. They must comply with international humanitarian law and international human rights law. The UN stands ready to intensify its work with all parties to assist them in taking the steps needed to halt the number of Afghan civilians killed and maimed from spiraling even further.
The Afghan war, which started after US forces led a campaign to overthrow the Taliban following the September 11, 2001 attacks on New York and Washington, has intensified despite peace talks gaining momentum. Afghan forces, backed by US advisors, have in recent months stepped up airstrikes and raids to the highest levels since 2014 in what senior security officials have described as a coordinated series of attacks on Taliban leaders and fighters. Suicide attacks and aerial operations each caused the most civilian casualties ever recorded by UNAMA. Ground engagements, mainly between pro-government forces and anti-government groups, remained the second leading cause of civilian casualties. In Venezuela, a truck and a convoy attempting to deliver humanitarian aid into the country from Colombia went up in flames, sending plumes of dark smoke into the air on Sunday. The incident came shortly after the Venezuelan troops fired tear gas and rubber pellets at opposition supporters seeking to deliver food and medicine. Despite often empty supermarket shelves, long lines for government-subsidized food and hospitals lacking in basic supplies and medicines, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has denied any crisis in his country and has refused to allow international aid. Meanwhile, opposition leader Juan Guaido has headed to the Colombian border, vowing to ensure personally that the aid enters Venezuela. Though some political analysts speculated Venezuelan soldiers may bar the way. Venezuela is gripped by political turmoil and economic collapse that have seen poverty soar during a prolonged recession and hyperinflation.